Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Triangle BNI. My name is Mike Manning, and each week we bring you a wonderful business story from BNI. If you're not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in central North Carolina is called Triangle BNI. Have about 30 chapters and about 700 members, all small business owners, small business workers. Great place to start a business or grow a business. And each week we bring you a success story. And our success story this week is Karen Atiles with Lifelong Development. Karen, glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Mike. Good
So
morning.
we're going to learn about Karen. She is in RD 15 inside the Quay,
That's right.
which we'll explain that to you in a minute if you're not from around here. Thursdays at 8:30 in the morning, the Gathering Community Church in Fuquay Arena.
That's correct.
So that's where we get the Quay from, folks. So we are in Raleigh. The triangle here is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, North Carolina, if you're not familiar with North Carolina. And Fuquay Arena is just right outside the area. So, but a neat little town to be in.
Southwest.
So anyways, if you're not familiar with BNI, each week there's a featured speaker and 5 or 10 minutes, depending on the size of their group. And they are introduced with the BNI member bio sheet. So we're going to start with that, Karen.
Sounds good.
All right. So we got speaker name, we got the business name. The profession is business and personal development, consulting, speaking, training, coaching.
Yes.
Can
I
I get all the-
specialize in leadership and business coaching.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. Location.
Location is pretty much anywhere because I do a lot of phone call coaching
Gotcha.
as well as I travel to wherever my clients are locally in the RDU area.
Okay. Do you work outside the triangle?
I
with
do.
clients?
I've gone to Charlotte. I've gone to Fayetteville
Okay.
for speaking engagements and just travel wherever the need is.
Okay. Wonderful. Years in the business.
So officially my business has been for 2 years. However, experience-wise, I've been doing this for about 10, 15 years.
Okay. My second favorite question in all
Yeah.
this is previous types of jobs.
Oh, wow.
And you can go all the way back to high school because we all
Okay.
have that one fun job or one awful job from high
All
school.
right.
But
Okay.
previous types of jobs, which we'll get into your background on that. But let's go back before probably your military service, which we'll talk about.
Okay. How about I start with the non-paying jobs that I've
Okay.
had?
That'll be good.
So when I was young, I lived with my grandparents, and they live in Willow Springs, North Carolina, which is a very small town, on a cow farm. And so even before I was getting paid for jobs, I was, helping feed the cows and all that. And so, and helping train dogs and stuff. And so that was my first real job, was helping my grandpa do that. That was a hard job. And then I went in and I was a lifeguard,
Okay.
and I worked at Ryan Steakhouse. It's no longer there in Garner. And let's see, I worked at a bookstore. I've done many, many different things, American Eagle. And then just going into the
Mhm.
military. So I was in the military. I started out in 1996, and I joined, and I waited for the job. I was a depper, and I waited for radiology. That was a great job. I was in the medical career field for half of my career. And then the last part of my career, I was at Launchstool when I got picked up to be a leadership instructor. And so I was a leadership instructor for about 4.5 years, and that really changed my trajectory on the path of
Okay.
job, career, passion, everything in life.
And we will get into that a little bit more. So back to the farming job. Was this
Yeah.
the traditional 5 a.m.?
Oh, I don't think I got up at 5 a.m. My grandpa was definitely out the door before dark every morning and would come home sometimes after dark.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
it was a hard, long job. I learned a lot of my work ethics from my grandparents, and
Very
they
nice.
still hold true to my life every day.
Can you still milk a cow and feed the chickens?
Oh,
Yeah.
I could. Yeah.
But it's been a
My
while,
girls
right?
have been taught how to do that.
Oh, very
so.
nice. Okay. So, girls, speaking of a transition into the
Yeah.
personal information on the bio sheet. So, family information.
Okay.
Tell us about spouse and kids.
Yes. So I was Air Force, and my husband, I met him in Germany, and he's Army. And so we met in middle of 2005, started dating. Fun fact about us, our first getaway trip together was to Pamplona, Spain. So running to the bulls type thing.
Yeah.
That's where we were at.
You didn't run with the bulls, though, did you?
We were planning on it, but we walked the cobblestone the day before and decided it wasn't a good thing to do. Thankfully, because 4 guys got gored that day.
Oh.
Anyway, fast forward, we got married in 2006, and we had our first daughter in 2007, our second in 2009, both born in Germany, and they know a little bit of German. a
Okay,
little
good.
Spanish,
There you
mostly
go.
English.
Very
So.
nice.
Mhm.
So is there a good story how you and your husband met?
Well, we both worked in the medical career field. We both worked in radiology. We didn't see each other a whole lot. I was overseeing the ultrasound, mammography, and departments, and so I was in my own little cubby. He was out taking care of CAT scan and regular radiology and PACS. And so it was about midway where we started seeing one another on a routine basis, and then we started talking to one another on a routine basis about subordinates I had or subordinates he had, and then it just I
Okay.
respected him a lot and thought he was a brainiac, and I love geeks and and smart people. I'm attracted to, and he's got that pit bull look about him, and so I just thought he was very,
All
very
right.
handsome. So
And the mixed marriage, Army and Air Force, it's okay?
that was a struggle towards the end, and he actually got out at 10 years. He hated to do that. He loves his Superman outfit and the Army and stuff, but Army was going to 18-month deployments, and we had our second daughter, and I was working in the mortuary a lot and couldn't have him be one of the individuals coming through, and so
Okay.
family means a lot to us. So he had to take one for the team.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Animals?
We have one dog. Her name is Pippi. She came with that name. She's half Weimaraner, half Italian Greyhound. Love her to death. She's
Okay.
about this high gray,
Yeah.
and then we have two guinea pigs, and they came with their names, Luke and Chewie. We do love Star Wars, so
Yeah.
it's a great thing. So it all fits together. We were all meant to be
So
together.
are you
So
building your small farm?
building our small farm, yes, our
Okay.
girls would like to think that for sure. Yeah.
So activities of interest.
Activities of interest. Okay, so this goes along with my passion and one of the reasons why I succeed at what I do. I love to travel. I've been to 38 countries. The military has definitely helped out a lot with that. My goal, I'm 42 right now, and my goal is to hit 50 countries by the age of 50. So hold me to that. If you see me, ask me how many countries I've been to. And I really, really feel passionate about that because I'm about the world view. I left North Carolina because I needed a bigger view, bigger piece of the pie in life. And when you go out there and you experience other cultures and really see what they value, then you can have more social sensitivity in your own life and bring that to the forefront of your business as well. And that really helps because America's a melting pot and it's getting more like that every day. And so if you're not socially sensitive to the cultures coming in, you don't have that third cup of tea with them before you actually want to do business, it's not going to work for you. And so you won't succeed.
So what's the next country on the list?
The next country I would say would be Australia. Haven't been there yet. A lot of people have, and
Uh,
I've heard all about the great things there. So I got to go see that.
my mom was a late traveler in life once she retired, and she
Mm.
set foot on 6 of the 7 continents.
Oh,
So that was pretty
nice.
cool, yeah.
Which one was she missing?
Antarctica?
Antarctica.
I think so, yeah.
I know you have to go
I would say that, yes,
North
Europe,
America,
Asia,
South
yeah, because I
America.
did like I learned in middle school. It's like Europe, Asia, Africa, North America, South America.
And
But she had a
Antarctica.
chance to do that, and I think a lot of that had to do with the time of the year you were there, and how you
It
get off the
does.
boat to step on land there because it's very difficult to do that. But
Right.
she didn't start traveling until she was, I don't know, mid-50s,
That's
and
amazing,
loved
though.
it. Like you, same
Yeah.
thing, just loved it. And they would go to a local. She would do on these group tours,
Hmm.
and they would go to a local's house for a local dinner, and she just loved it.
Oh, that's
Had very
amazing.
little English. They could in Italy, some of these other countries they went to in Europe could not understand each other, but with food, everybody
That's
understands
right.
each other. But
That's
she just
right.
loved that part of it, learning and just hearing
Mhm.
stories and just walking around. Machu Picchu was one of her favorite places she ever
Oh,
went
yeah.
to. Get
Yeah.
above, go up the steps up above the clouds. She would tell us about those
You know,
stories.
you talk about how food brings different
Yeah.
cultures together.
Oh yeah.
Another thing that brings people together is music.
Hmm.
And one of my subordinates, she was a clarinet. She had her master's degree in clarinet, right? So she
Wow.
was with the Air Force band,
Oh, good stuff.
and so she would go to countries like Africa and build the international partnerships through playing music. And
Oh,
that's
nice.
just amazing, like, what people can do and how people can bring each other together. And you were talking about how food can
Yeah.
bring
Oh
people
yeah.
together. I love some food in different countries and stuff, so music can do that as well.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Agreed on. All right. So last part of the bio sheet here is your burning desire is to what?
help people reach their full potential in life. I believe that, you love people where they're at, but everybody can reach a higher level. And so my motto is every airman deserves a cup of love. But as I've transitioned and built my business, every person, every human being deserves a cup of love. And so that's my burning desire is to help them reach that potential with a cup of love.
Very nice. The key to your success is?
Mm. The key to my success is, like I said before, social sensitivity and that cup of love.
Mm.
Understanding different cultures and how we're all coming together in America as a melting pot. And even if you travel abroad, you're an ambassador for America. And if you can influence other cultures just based off of who you are, having that social sensitivity, then you will build your business without even trying hard.
And my favorite question out of all this is something no one knows about you. Now, we've heard the
Mhm.
farm story. There's
And
some
you've
people
heard
out
about
here that probably haven't met you yet, but something nobody knows about you.
Okay. Um, so let's go with the culture aspect. And so I'll stick with that in the military. So back in about 2005, I did the 9 Megan March. It is in Holland, and it's a 100-mile march with a 35-pound rucksack. And it's in Holland, and so you do it over 4 days, and if you have a team, then you get a team coin or
Mhm.
certificate at the end. And so we did it with the military, so I wore my uniform. I got bandaged, my feet by the Dutch before I did the march, but I lost every single one of my toenails, and I had to have 2 Toradol shots the last day.
Oh,
But
geez.
it was an amazing, um mental challenge
Mm.
and one that I won't forget. I got to see a lot of Dutch. They walked it with wooden clogs on. And if you
Ooh.
can do that, man, you are powerful. You're
Very nice,
strong.
very
Yeah.
nice. All right, so you are the owner of Lifelong Development.
Yes,
We
I
talked
am.
about, all kind of business development. So tell
Mhm.
us kind of the status of the company today and what you're up
Mhm.
to.
So the status of the company today is right on track. Um, I had to scale back a little bit this year from some personal things that were going on. And so I tend to focus about 40% right now on the business and 60% on my family. And I had to do that. And I think anybody that has some things going on in their life needs to really do an assessment in that regard and not work yourself to death. I'm here for the long haul. And so I'm going to pick back up next year in 2019, but I've had to take some setbacks. I've had to scale back a little bit this year. And I think there's no such thing as balance.
That's
It's
day to
just,
day, isn't
it's
it?
right. It's all a matter of priorities in life. And if you can really outline your priorities, then you can outline your day percentage wise, task wise, schedule wise,
Mm.
whatever. So,
So, and how do
mhm,
you relay that to some of your
clients.
yes.
Well, I take a look at and I listen to their nonverbals, not just their verbals, and I see, okay, what's really going on in their life. And I have to build that trust with them. And once I do that, then I'm able to help them brainstorm the best course of actions for them so that they can maintain their mental state, their creative state, because you can't continue that creative juices flowing if you're depleting your willpower. Willpower is not on will call all the time. And so you've got to be able to maintain that state in a healthy balance.
In a previous life, had managed a couple of facilities, and they had security cameras, and sometimes money was involved, sometimes it wasn't. It was for safety and security and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And I would tell people that I don't need audio on, especially for employees watching them. I don't need audio. I just watch them.
Yeah.
I'm a big body language
Yes.
guy. You can because we
Yes.
can say all we want to,
Yes.
and then you just watch us for 5 minutes of the show, So I'm sure you
Right.
pick up on a lot of
I
that with your
do.
clients.
And, I build such a rapport with them and a trust that I'm able to vocalize when I
Mhm.
see it without them getting defensive. And that's the key to the coaching process is having that mindset and that environment set by me in order for them to feel comfortable to grow in that environment. If I share something hey, your nonverbals are screaming at
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
they're not going to, draw back and um, get defensive or clam
Sometimes,
up.
yeah, right. Sometimes another set of eyes are good because a lot of times we don't realize we're doing something.
That's right.
And we do, like, sometimes I'll be doing, and I'm like, my wife one day said, "Will you put the pen down?" So, and we don't know that, but a good clean set of eyes to look at it. And then you go, and
Mhm.
then you point out a couple things, and then they go, "Oh, that's right, I do."
Yeah.
And that
But
helps you a
it's not
bunch, doesn't
always a
it?
negative thing. It
No.
can be a
Oh,
positive
yeah.
thing too, to
Mhm.
reinforce, get rid of those self-sabotaging things that you believe about yourself, but outside perspective really just sheds a whole new light on it. It's not rose-colored glasses.
Right.
It's telling you, "Hey, you really are great at this."
Or whether you're dealing with somebody personally or professionally for their growth, are there a couple common factors that we just all do
Oh,
that
yeah.
we could work on? And I'm gonna limit you to an hour to tell me different things we have, but are there a couple common themes that you see pretty much with everybody as far as
Mhm.
organizing their day, setting their goals and things like
Yeah.
that?
Okay, let's start with the big things. Let's talk about the macro. So I would say that a lot of people can't see the forest for the trees. They get in the weeds of their micro tasks that they have throughout the day, and they're not remembering their goals, they're not remembering their mission, their vision of the future. You got to start your day with that in mind. If you can take 5 minutes to just think about it, visualize it. That's the key. Your thoughts are things, and whatever you hold true and focus on, that's where your energy goes. Talk about emotion is energy in motion. And so, whenever you are focusing on your vision, you're going to complete the task to get you there. And so, I think that a lot of people get stuck
Mm.
in those micro tasks, and then they get into procrastination mode or sidetrack, squirrel, those types of
Tomorrow's the
things.
best day, isn't it?
It's yeah,
I'll do it
right.
tomorrow.
That's right. That's right. Why do today what I could put off to
But with
tomorrow?
small business, though, I know you've run across this because we see this in BNI a lot, is a lot of them are solopreneurs, and
Mhm.
to work it and grow it, sometimes you can't do both.
It's really hard. And so a lot of times what I'll work with them on is just what can you do today? What is one thing that you could do that if you did it in such a way, it would make everything else in your life easier? And so that's what I tend to just,
Mm,
if you can't do everything,
yes.
what
Yeah.
is the one thing that will make the most difference
Oh,
as
yeah.
as an entrepreneur? So
And a lot of times those 5 minutes in the morning, because 'cause we're just out the door, we're dressed,
that's
eat
right.
real quick and out the door, and you're like, "Okay, my schedule is," and,
Yeah.
"Wait, let's take a breath, take a step back." Yeah.
Yeah. And they forget about the basics of what they need to do for their body and their mind. If you're not eating right, if you're
Mm.
not doing some form of like either you're running, you're elliptical, you're walking, or you're doing yoga, something to get your blood flowing. Even if you go on an inverter to get the blood flowing back to the head and go back, that's I do that. I do it for back pain and stuff, but if you're not doing something to get your blood moving inside your body, then you're just causing a lot of
Mm.
sedimentary
Yep.
things inside of your blood system. Working in the medical career field, I understand that a lot.
Oh, yeah. And I was in their crawl space this morning looking for termites, so I would
Oh,
consider
you
that my
were
workout
yeah, that's
already
right.
before noon. Yes, I like that. So if you're not familiar with
Mm,
BNI,
mhm.
we recommend you go to trianglebni.com. And there's a couple things you can look for there. There's a pull down bar that says find a chapter. And our chapters are separated by daytime, parts of the city, parts of the triangle. Find out what's
Mhm.
closer to you, be it where you work, where you live, what part of the day would be a good meeting. Maybe Monday mornings aren't good for you.
Mhm.
Maybe Thursday at lunch is much better. But you can find chapters that way. And if you know anybody's looking to start a business or grow a business, we so recommend that you go visit a BNI chapter. Because if you've heard through here each week, we have wonderful stories of people from realtors to movers to credit card processors, you name it. Yeah. So there's something for everybody there, and we talk about structure, and we'll get to that in a
Mhm.
little bit with your military. But BNI
Mhm.
offers the same thing. There's a program, and it works,
Oh,
and there's a
yes.
reason why.
That's right.
So Karen is in RD15 inside the Quay. They meet
Mhm.
Thursday mornings at 8:30. You are relatively new to BNI.
I am.
So tell us the first time you even ever heard of BNI or were introduced to it.
Okay. So When I retired from the military, I decided that I was definitely going to work for or be affiliated with John Maxwell. And I'm sure a lot of
Mm.
people out there have heard of John Maxwell. And so I got my certification as a coach through John Maxwell. And when I went to do the certification live event, that's where they really talked about, and I even got to meet Ivan Myers. He actually won the John Maxwell Leadership Award that
Very
year.
nice.
And so I got to meet him, hear about him, and hear about his business, which is Business Network International, BNI. And he recommended that all of us go out back to our locations and find the BNI that worked for us. So I came back and did that. I was out there, I was visiting all BNIs, and I still do that now. But I found a couple that were really I fit right in with. And that's the key is to find a group of individuals that you really mesh well with and then you put an application in. The application process, you could go up against a couple of other people in the same industry as you. And so they have an interview process that you'll have to meet with a couple of their members with, and then they'll make a decision. Their membership committee will make the decision, and then they'll let you know one way or the other if you got the position or not. The first BNI group that I put an application in with, I unfortunately didn't get that. I know the coach, and she is well worth the membership there. But it was a blessing in disguise for me because the second one that I put an application in for, that has been the best fit for me personality wise. And that's in
It's funny how that
Fuquay-Varina.
works. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when people go to trianglebni.com, there's also the phone number on there. It's 919-465-1667. And you can talk to Steve or Brenda or Mary in the office. So what was the deciding factor? What was the deciding factor on which chapter you were going to join?
hmm well, the other one, it made a decision for me.
We talked
So
about that earlier, didn't we?
so, unanswered prayers, it
Yes,
works well.
exactly.
And so, I they called me, Inside the Quay called me and said I got the position, as a business consultant
Mhm.
within the group, and I was so excited. And then a couple months later, they're like, "You're doing such a great job. We want you to be vice president."
Yes, yeah.
And so I took that position on, and I've been that ever since, and I've definitely loved it.
So who were some of the natural referral partners you found in your
Mhm.
chapter to help you grow your business?
Mhm. I would say insurance businesses, even people that are out there um, doing financial services, like Edward Jones,
Mhm.
Robin Wellings Loftus in my group has been a great referral partner. Um, Lawyers, anybody that has contact with organizations, whether it be Chamber of Commerce's or businesses that have mid-level leaders or even solo entrepreneurs, because I work a lot with those individuals as well. So
And who are some of the people you actually are looking for when and again, going back to a
yeah.
BNI meeting, if you've never been to one, BNI is seat specific. So if anybody's looking for a business coach, they're going to tell them, oh, you need to call my friend Karen because she's
Mhm.
wonderful. She'll help you.
Mhm.
BNI is like, know, and trust. So they get to know
That's
you
right.
and can refer you. But also each week in a BNI meeting, we go around the room and everybody stands up. We tell everybody in the meeting who we are, what we do, and who we're looking for.
Mhm.
And the more specific you can be,
Yeah.
the better you can, because we all have to educate our fellow members on how to refer us and what we're looking for. So,
Right.
what do you tell them you are looking for and who you're looking for?
Mhm. Sometimes I'm very specific on the organization or the person that I'm looking for. Like I asked to meet with Holly Springs Chamber of Commerce, and I
Mm.
got that. Um, Fuquay-Varina Chamber of Commerce. I had a member within my BNI group that was on the board, and so that worked out really well and really easy. And then if we're looking at a broader scope, then I'm looking for individuals between the ages of 30 and 60 because typically those are the mid level or leaders. And then I'm looking for people with a growth mindset. You can't come into a coaching process if you're not willing to grow. And so I always do that interview process, and I'm willing to interview anyone, but if they're not wanting those kind of services or looking for it, then oftentimes it's not going to be a good fit for me.
Mm. So, is there a priority for you, whether it's a startup business or an established
No,
business?
absolutely not.
Because we all
Um,
need help, right? At
yeah,
some
that's
point in
right.
time.
That's right. And it depends on what they're at. I mean, I've helped startup businesses look at their P&L statements, balance sheets. I've also helped them look at how they structure their time, their days. Whereas with established businesses, I've helped them with succession planning.
Mhm.
I've helped them with negotiating strategies. Because you always want to have that win-win when you come to the table and you're going to negotiate, whether it be buying a book of sale or you're wanting to sell the business itself. So you need those tactics or team building.
Mhm.
I deal a lot with intangibles mostly.
And a lot of times with a family business,
hmm
there's some landmines out there.
There is a lot of interpersonal
Mhm.
relationships that you have to nurture and maintain business versus personal um, is- structure and
Yeah.
understand. Helping people come to the table and just sometimes you have to be a counselor and you have to facilitate
Yeah.
interpersonal
Oh,
conversations
yes.
and if I'm not going to do it for them, then they need to know how to facilitate that.
Now, these are the people when you stand up each week and tell either your chapter or another chapter you're visiting, these are the types of people I'm looking for. Are these people, are they looking for you too? Do they know they might could use some help, might could need some help?
Are you talking about people within my
No,
BNI
the business
chapter?
owners, when you say I'm looking
Mm,
for somebody 30 to 50, small
mm,
business, stuff like that,
mhm,
sometimes do we as business owners
mm,
know, I could use a little help?
mhm. And sometimes I'll, give some tidbits within my 60-second to just, hey, reiterate some of the things that you might not be thinking about within your own business to say, oh, you know what, I might need that. I'm trying to think of one, for example. Um, like there we are in October 1st right now. So we are in the last quarter of this year.
Mm.
If you don't have your goals planned out, mapped out, structurized your day to make the most of these 94, 93 days left in this year, you need to give me a call so we can set that up and get it going.
Maybe a little late, but yeah,
It
absolutely.
doesn't,
Call
it's
to save the
never,
year.
that's
Yes.
right. We can sure try. We bust this 2018 out with a bang.
So you had talked earlier about your last stint in Germany and kind
Yeah.
of that role there that changed your direction, your path in
Mhm.
life. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Mhm. So when I became a leadership instructor, my husband was definitely the rock, and that's when he actually got out of the army, and I stayed in the Air Force and finished out the 20 years for our family. I became a leadership instructor. I went away for a while to get trained in that, so he held down the fort with our two girls. And when I came back, I began to teach leadership to 150 students per every 6 weeks, and then I got the great opportunity to start going out and developing those international relationships. So I got a chance to go to Ukraine 3 times, um, and, you have to learn how to drink shots of vodka
Oh,
to
good. Okay.
establish that rapport a little
Now, where do
bit.
you sign up for that?
While making sure that you don't say any the wrong
Give any
things. I
state
mean, you're
secrets
still an
away?
ambassador to America, so if they ask you a question about nuclear warheads or anything, you gotta make sure you don't say nothing. So
Minot, North Dakota. Go visit. It's a wonderful place.
I'm sure they could find that on the
Yeah,
internet, but you gotta
yeah,
make
that's
sure
true.
that you maintain, um, boundaries and
So
everything.
what drew you to that?
Oh my
To
gosh,
the
just
teaching and
yeah.
helping people develop?
My husband was like, "You do a really good job of mentoring people and nurturing and training individuals. I mean, you have that positive, upbeat spirit. You're enthusiastic, and people need that as they're learning new skills and developing themselves." And so he really was the backbone behind me going into being a leadership instructor because you have to put in a package. You can't just say, "Hey, I want to be an
Yeah.
instructor." You have to be vetted, and you have to go through the application process and all that, which is very stringent.
And did you have enough obviously, you had enough at that time in your life, you have more now, but back then you had enough to
Experience.
yes.
Yeah, I definitely have built and led teams throughout my military career. Had some challenges. I have built a lot of resiliency. There are certain circles that I will tell my personal stories. I have early on in the military career, I was sexually assaulted. Air Force, thankfully, has come a long way since 1996, 97 timeframe in helping, you know, uh, victims in that regard. PTSD, all these different things have provided me with experiences so that whenever I was a leadership instructor, and even in my position now, I'm able to relate a lot more with individuals in different areas of their life, in different organizations, whatever the person's going through. More often times than not, I've been there, I've done that. You know, Confucius says the one thing constant in this world is change,
Mhm.
and I love it. I love change, and our organizations across America, if you're not changing, you're outdated tomorrow. So I have been through a lot of those changes. Um, Air Force is all about change. Lifelong development's all about change. That's why I made that title the way it is. It's a lifelong journey, and there's no success is not a destination. It's just a continuation of today
And
moving
you hear
forward.
people when they get to whatever level of success in whatever industry they're in, they'll a lot of times they'll talk about the journey more than reaching the
That's
destination.
right. You learn so much more
Oh,
in the
yes.
German in the journey.
Mhm.
You learn so much more through failure than you do through success as well. And let me tell you, since starting this business, I've had it for 2 years officially. I've failed a lot, so I've learned a lot, and so it's just been like, as Elon Musk says, "If you're not failing, you're not trying." I
Mhm.
love that, and so I I don't mind failure. I don't mind growing and learning. And so I encourage that with anybody that I'm talking with as well, because I don't want them to feel that the failure is their stopping point. It's not. It just tells you, hey, this didn't work. Your goal can still be accomplished. We just need a new plan. So that's
Yeah. And I've hired in previous jobs I've had, I've hired a fair number of professional and hourly people. And the older I get, I'm looking to surround myself with successful people. And I
mm.
love the school of hard knocks. I would rather have street sense than book
Mhm.
sense
Mhm.
because they're a fighter. And like I said earlier, they failed. So like, okay, well, I'm not going to run through that wall. I'm not going to run into that wall because there's a door right next to it. Let
Right,
me just walk through
right,
the door and see what happens. But a lot of
right.
times and people say that it's the failures, like you said earlier, that make them better because
It
if
is.
you're smart enough to learn from it.
Right,
Right.
right. That's right. That's right. And I think our BNI group is definitely a way that we can come together and we can learn from one another in those
Mhm.
hard knocks. You don't have to experience firsthand all those failures. If you can truly be open minded and have that growth mindset, then you can learn from others' mistakes as well, not just your own. So,
Right, and I enjoy the, not only my chapter, but the other chapters I get to visit, when speakers get into telling stories about how they solved a problem for a client, because 'cause we've all had that client.
mm-hmm.
It's like, they do not understand what they're asking for can't be done, or it's not your fault, whatever it was, but how you deal with and it may have been something you did.
Hmm.
We had a painter one day that said, "We painted the ceiling the wrong color. We did not do our due diligence, and we painted the ceiling the wrong color, and so we had to come back and repaint it, but that was our fault, but they learned through that, so the next house they went to that had that same scenario, and it escapes me what it was, they knew, "Okay, let's not do that color, let's start with the color we ended up with," so, a lot of times and that's what I enjoy with speakers in BNI, is they tell those stories of,
Hmm.
Yeah, I got a good one for you."
That's
It
right.
generally
That's
is pretty
right.
good, so
Yes. Yes.
so with BNI, and back to your
Mhm.
background here, one of the neat things is very few people I'm sure have process management, human resources, and change management all in a background. But
Mhm.
that's given you the ability to look at people and issues from almost two or three different angles, isn't it?
That's right. It is. And a lot of the conversations that I have with people, sorry, my hair's in my face. The conversations that I have with people, they can definitely go in any of those um, directions. When we talk about process improvement,
Mm,
just hearing somebody talk about the processes within their work center or how something is structured. A lot of times, the organizational structure itself could be needing improvement, and so we'll talk about how to streamline it a little bit because redundancy causes a lot of errors, and so if we can eliminate the redundancies and eliminate some of the I need to talk to so and so in order to get this approved, and, trying to streamline it just a little bit more, you can actually see a lot more success happen in the business. And then with human resource management, that's
yeah.
that's all day long, every day,
It
the intangibles of a people.
Even with a two-person business, you got
It
HR
is.
is in play, so all
Yes.
kinds of things,
Yeah.
and it gets just that gets back to a number of things, but that could be a whole
Mm.
nother show.
Oh, yeah.
So, but a lot of it is how you treat your employees, how you
Mhm.
do you train them correctly? Are they not doing why are they not maximizing their potential?
Mhm.
Did you just go, "Just here, do this, always look for if you see this green, do this."
Mhm.
Well, they don't learn the whys,
Mhm. And
so
that's where I make sure that whenever I'm coaching someone that they do truly have a growth mindset, because if they have the growth mindset, then they can learn how to influence more effectively as a leader. Leadership is influence. And so if you are able to influence in a bigger, more powerful way, in a positive way, then you're going to get better results. But it all starts with yourself. Um, the book Extreme Ownership. Well, you've got to take ownership yourself. If you've been in the business for over 2 years, all those problems in your organization are your problems.
mm,
They're because of you.
mhm.
And so you've got to take ownership first of those problems and then try to figure out, okay, how do I best go about that? The people is the hardest thing to work with. The processes, the equipment, they're all easy things to take care of. But the people, they come with all different challenges, all different backgrounds, and they're evolving. So you are never s- done leading any one person. They change, and so you have to change. You have to grow in order to keep that influence going.
And I think most successful people will tell you it's the people that they've hired. Because any
Oh, yeah.
business, you could have a wonderful product or
Mhm.
service, but if your people aren't any good doing it,
That's
you're
right.
not going to last long
That's right. And
at
so when
all.
we talk about HR and stuff, and
Mhm.
we talk about onboarding processes and hiring, the thing that, when asked my advice, it's don't look at their skills so much. Look at their personality. Look at their character, their true character. Are they an ethical person? Are they someone that gets along with other people? Introduce them to people. See how they react. Their nonverbals. Do they seem like an open person? Depending on their personality, they're going to have little quirks about them. And you got to love people where they're at. You can't expect everybody to be like you. And if they are all like you, then your business is not going to grow. You've got to have a well rounded team. I teach four lenses and I do disc assessments with
Mm.
organizations. And so you've got to understand and build a good, well rounded personality team in order to not have any blind spots, in order to have true risk assessments of the future. So
Mm.
it's really the people are what make your business
Yes.
grow and succeed.
And if you're not aware of yourself, that disc assessment can be
Oh
an
my
eye
gosh.
opener. It's like,
That's right. Do you know
no,
what you are?
uh, I I've seen it. It's been a while since I've looked at
Okay.
it, but I'm
Okay.
the extrovert. I'm the people pleaser
Perfect.
and all that
Okay.
stuff. So,
Oh,
and that's why my brother and I get along so well in business because he's the detailed guy and he sits behind a
you're
computer. He makes
organized.
everything work. And I just want to
Mhm.
talk all day and meet people and build relationships and do all that. So we get along, talk about family businesses earlier. That's why we get along so well because I couldn't get him to a networking event and he's got me behind a computer in front of a spreadsheet for 8 minutes. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I beat a squirrel? Squirrel?
That's right, that's right. You'll make a great team.
We do
Mhm.
because we don't want to go near it. You don't want to crawl under a house, and I don't want to do insurance or payroll or anything like that.
And that's how
What?
you should build a team too.
Oh
That's
yeah,
exactly
want no
perfect.
part of it.
That's
In
right.
previous jobs, because I've known that in the facilities I've been general manager before, I'm not that much of a detailed person. So
Mhm.
I guess in the military, my number one was, I mean, I was best when I had a detailed person right next to me.
Mhm.
And they took care of that and allowed me to grow and sell and hire and all that stuff. But it's something, again, it goes back to took me a while to learn that.
That's right, that's
Yeah.
right.
So,
My grandpa was, telling me the other day, I was asking him, "If you could go back and tell your 40-year-old self, like, give your 40-year-old self
mm,
some advice, what would it be?" And he said, "Just do what you love, just do what makes you happy and stuff." And part of that was, I forgot what you said. Part of that was just, you know, doing what you love and being the best you could be
yeah.
for,
Because I
people
want to
around
talk all
you.
day and that's all I want to do
That's
instead of
right.
looking at
That's
spreadsheets and all that. I
right.
don't know what
If you're
half of
not
it. Yeah.
doing what you're
Oh
loving, then
yeah. Yeah. That's why I
you're
love
not
doing this.
fulfilling your
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
potential in life.
And you had mentioned earlier the relationship or what you learned from your grandfather
Mhm,
working on the farm.
mhm,
I always, and it takes a while to, when you interview people, whether they're hourly or salary. and try to get to those questions like you'd mentioned earlier, what makes them tick.
Mhm.
And you can ask, we've asked before, who do you most respect and
Mhm.
things like that. And every time I could get somebody say their grandmother or their grandfather, that's
Mhm.
usually where they learned a bunch of good processes and procedures growing up. It's like, no, you need to do this first. So anytime I
Mhm.
could get somebody to go, oh yeah, my grandparent was, it's like, okay,
You're hired.
let's continue this interview
Yeah.
because a lot of it is a lot of people have those wonderful stories about their grandparents. And that's
Mhm.
where sometimes they learn their first thing.
That's right.
My mom and I would talk all the time about being a grandparent and my dad's mom, um, I would have this conversation with my mom. I have no recollection of any present that woman ever bought me, but I remember the times. I remember the stories. I remember places we went together, the things she would teach me. It's like if I
Mhm.
was, no, don't say that to your mother, things like
That's
that. But
right. The
that,
feeling.
yes, but
Mhm.
so I love those. But again,
Mhm.
going back to the hiring process, trying to find out what makes them tick, because we can
Mhm.
all give you a sheet of paper. Oh, I can
Mhm.
multiply these numbers. I can paint this car. I can do whatever. But now let's figure out what makes you tick.
That's
So
right.
yeah, but
I always ask them, "What makes you happy?"
oh yeah,
What,
that's a
like,
simple one,
really, what
straightforward.
yeah.
Yeah,
What makes you happy? What makes you sad?
yeah.
And then you'll know, like, really, like, deep down, like, what motivates them.
So the structure you had in the Air Force.
Mhm.
So now you're coming to BNI. What similarities were there, and what have you been able to bring in your background to help your BNI chapter?
Mhm. So I think
And
not
Steve
just
Hand is listening. We're not going to undo everything you built here, Steve. Trust us. We
no
love the
way.
process. But
No,
so what have you
absolutely.
learned to bring? Because we all want to bring something to our chapter to make
Right.
it better.
And I think that the BNI is doing a great job. I wouldn't change much about it at all. So one of the things that I've brought from the military into the vice president role is just accountability,
Hmm.
holding people accountable, reiterating standards, um, and even getting feedback. Because feedback really helps you. You can't sugarcoat it. And so a lot of times I'll ask visitors, and I'm being very transparent here because, any people coming into BNI, you need to know that, we're a work in progress. Our chapters are growing, they're ever evolving as well. And so our leadership team is constantly working to make it better for your experience as you're coming in to visit us and as we are hoping that you'll join our and become a pivotal part of our group. So whenever visitors come, I sometimes will ask them, as they're leaving, "Hey, what candid advice or feedback can you provide?" And some of it has not been great sometimes,
No,
and
I know.
and I've been able to bring that back. And so one of the things was, "Oh, we kind of seem kind of clicky," and so um, that's one thing that we are working on. And I've asked those visitors, "Hey, can you just give me about 6 months, and then I want you to come back so that we can reassess, and you can be a part of that, and you can really help us grow." And they have really enjoyed that a lot, and
One of the things we explained to the members is BNI, the N stands for networking, not net sitting.
that's
So,
right.
but just think about that when you go
Yes.
into a room that you don't know anybody, and if 8 people are sitting around at a table and no one greets you, you're
Yeah.
not feeling any
You're not
love.
feeling welcomed at
No,
all, and you
not at
don't wanna
all.
come back, and you may
Mm.
not recommend that group at all,
Right,
and so
exactly. So just but little things like that, and again, the other neat thing about BNI is we're all there for the same reason. We wanna grow our business, make some money,
yeah.
but made some wonderful friends doing that. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's nice to know that I've got, 15 or 20 people wanting to help me and kinda along the same path I am of growing a business, and I know
That's
you run
right.
across that a lot as well.
I do, and, going back to know, like, and trust,
Mhm.
when you're first getting into BNI, everybody's gotta get to know you, so they're gonna have one-to-ones. That's where you have a meeting for about an hour and get to know each other. You learn about each other's background, about family, and then you get down to the business, and then lastly, in that last part of the hour, you're going to figure out how y'all can work together or refer one another to each other's business. Um, but you're gonna get to know one another first. Then you gotta like each other. So you gotta have that social sensitivity. You gotta, be willing to be open with other individuals. When I was in the military and they changed over to, they relieved the don't ask, don't tell.
Mhm.
And some people had a hard time with, well, what do I do if I have somebody that's gay as a subordinate? And I was like, dude, you know what? You need to get over that.
Mhm.
You're going to have a subordinate that when they get promoted, they're able to kiss, if it's a male, they're able to kiss their counterpart, that other male. Your nonverbals are going to scream
Yeah.
whether you keep your credibility or you don't. And the same thing goes in BNI. If you're not socially sensitive to other people, gender wise, ethnic wise, whatever, background wise, it doesn't matter. If you're not socially sensitive, they're not going to like you because they don't feel welcome, because you don't accept them for who they are. And that's a big key part of it too. So know, like, and now trust. Trust is something it's built over time. It's not, you can't demand it. It's not something that it just takes time to do. And so if you're not referred within the first 6 months, that's okay. You can be referring, it givers gain. If you can give referrals out, that builds that trust too. In the time that you're getting people to like you and know you, you can start to already contribute into that bank of trust.
And going back to the melting pot, when you talk about when your service in the military and traveling all over the world, all the countries you want to go to, made me stop and think for a second about just my BNI chapter. And I'm one of the older ones in the group, which I'm fine with. I'm a brand new grandfather, which I'm fine with.
Yay.
So I get to tell people those stories, and all the younger people coming in, I get to hear their stories because some of them are about my boy's age and some of them aren't. But you get to hear
Mhm.
different family stories. And more importantly, it's just like this show here, get to learn the backgrounds of where people came from. I never grew up on a farm, was never near one. But look at the work ethic you have to have on a farm because there's
That's
no one else
right.
to help you
That's
but the
right.
family, right?
That's right. That's
And so
right.
that's what I enjoy about being I just learn the stories and learning
Yeah.
from other people,
Mhm.
and you kind of learn. It's kind of like, huh, didn't know
That's
that.
right.
Yeah.
And so you talk about, newer people are coming in, and a lot of people that I've heard from, the older generations that I've worked with, some of them have a hard time with the millennial generation coming in. And I would ask your perspective on, what have you learned from the millennial entrepreneurs that have coming into your BNI visiting or members? Um, I know I'm throwing it back to
That's
you.
fine. No, the number one thing actually, which makes sense, because my brother and I have talked about this, is just the use of social media
Yeah.
to grow a business, to get word out. Because back in our day,
Mhm.
it was newspaper, radio, and TV, and everybody did all three. Not
Mhm.
anymore. I mean, I've got two boys that are going to grow up. They will never have a newspaper subscription. But
Yeah.
back in my day, and we all know, I'm sure your grandfather did the same thing, sitting at the table reading the paper.
That's right.
That's how we got our news. And
Yeah.
then we watched the nightly news at 6 o'clock with Huntley and Brinkley or Tom Brokaw or whatever age group you're in. And that's what we knew, and that's where we got the information. But
Right.
now, like for the pest control, I'm looking for busy moms because
Mhm.
they're 2.3 kids, travel this, travel that, like with your girls, with your kids
Mhm.
with swimming. They're all this, all that,
Oh,
but
yeah.
their social media with Facebook or Instagram with their friends. Oh, I just saw this. Let me tell you about that.
Yeah.
And it could be a product, a service, could be me or somebody else. But so that's
Mhm.
what I've learned from them coming in
Yeah.
is not only how it works, but how to get two old guys to do this.
And succeed at
I
it.
know, I know. Wait, I gotta be on it that much. It's like, I don't
That's
really care about the
right.
other stuff. I don't. But so it's neat to learn not only personally from them, but because we're all in different places in our business.
Mhm.
You could be 25 years in. I've got some people in my chapter been doing it 30 years, and I've got
Mhm.
others been doing it 3 years. So you can learn different things of, I never looked at it that way. I never thought of it that way.
Right.
Both ways. The three can learn from the 30 and the 30 can learn from the three.
That's right. So the older generations can definitely help with the experience
Yes.
and how to
Yeah.
handle those new situations that they've never been to. And then the new generation can definitely help the older generations with how to reach, more populace, how to
Yeah.
grow their business so that they can retire and turn it over to somebody else or sell it.
Sure, and that's a good point because the older folks in my chapter we
Mhm.
can when somebody is new stands up and goes, "I had this situation, I didn't know what to do," and 5 hands go up. And we
That's
would give
right.
them, not like, "Okay,
Mhm.
here's what I've been through before and here's what you triggered that." And then
That's
with the
right.
new ones coming in, it's like, how do I
That's
talk to
right.
everybody and how do I get word out and why is because you sit at a street light. I know that Webster's dictionary is gonna come out with the social media honk. because you're sitting second in line and that light turns green, that car in front of you, the head's down, you know what they're doing. They're
That's
on their
right.
phone
That's
and you
right.
don't want to be that old guy just kind of tapping on yours. Like, but it's going to be the social media honk. I know it's going to be in Webster's dictionary soon, but those are things we can learn from each other.
In the Southern realm, North Carolina, our social media honk would be "Bless your heart, move along."
And I'm glad there are no microphones in cars because we'd be screaming at everybody right now. So, but again, that's the beauty of BNI is you get that mesh of people in different phases of their lives.
That's right. And, I would say that that's almost a mini mastermind group too. So a
Yes, very good.
mastermind group is where you bring a group of individuals who like each other and they're wanting to have the same kind of goals and everything come together, and then they share experiences and they walk away with the combined knowledge of the full group. And that's considered the third eye or the mastermind
Mm.
philosophy. And I definitely say BNI has definitely got that mastermind philosophy going
Oh,
on.
I love it because sometimes just ask you could be in totally different profession. Hey, I
Mhm.
ran across a client or a situation the other day. Have you seen this before? And chances
Yeah,
are they've seen something similar
that's
where
right.
they could help you with, well,
Yep.
next time look for this or ask for this and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
And definitely with those chapters that have the subgroups, we're moving into
the
that
power
the
teams, yeah.
power
Yep.
teams. Yeah. If you can get into one of those groups, that definitely focuses in like the sun through a microscope,
Mhm.
just focuses in that effort, that focus to have a higher level of learning and from other people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, love power teams, and we
Hmm.
we can talk about that. We've done that before. So your background, I think you're the first person on the show with a BS from Maryland and a master's from Lewis.
Hmm.
I have that in the right order?
Hmm.
What got you
Yeah.
to both of those schools?
So Maryland was a university that I could take online while I was traveling around from Mississippi to Germany to Delaware. And then Lewis, I haven't completed my master's yet. So my master's I wanted to go to Meredith College
Mhm.
because they have a great doctoral degree in industrial organizational psychology. And that's really what I was after. But I needed the flexibility. I'm, a mom. I have wear many hats. I'm an entrepreneur and a wife. And so I needed the flexibility to be able to do classwork whenever I could. And so that's where I went online and found Lewis University. And that actually, when you graduate, allows you to be set up for success for the ICF certification. And so I plan on doing that once I'm done with my master's.
Well, if you do want to go to Meredith, I know a really good person who will help you with organizational skills and stuff like that. So if you need that, give me a call. I
Okay.
got somebody, which is what BNI is. Somebody, a
That's
client or friend
right.
asks you a question. I know a person
That's
and you
right.
take care of it on the
That's
referrals.
right.
But wife, mom, entrepreneur. Yeah, I get, I get all that. So
Yes.
one of the other neat things, in explaining to people who are not familiar with BNI or have never been in a BNI chapter is the well-roundedness of the people in these chapters. Not only have we started, sometimes multiple businesses, and I think we can a lot of us can admit, not every one of them worked out how we
That's
thought it
right.
would be,
That's
but that's
right.
fine. That's how we learn. So the next one is, but also the giving back in the community. I know
Mhm.
volunteer-wise, you have a connection to the Girl Scouts.
I do. Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that because I want people to
Hmm.
know just these are the type of people in BNI that you're going to run across. Well
Hmm.
rounded, not just, oh, I'm here for the money and I'm out, all that, but you
That's
build those
right.
relationships, you give back to the community.
Yeah. So Girl Scouts is one of those that follows along with my family mission statement. And I definitely feel like our next generations, they need mentoring. They need a f- Girl Scouts needs a female mentor that, you know, you may be raised in an environment that's not conducive to growth and development of leadership or just meeting your mental needs. But when you come to Girl Scouts, you're going to get all that and a bag of chips and a bag of brownies or cookies. And so, it's just a place where girls can come and they can have that safe environment where they can learn about basic skills, communication, leadership, um, community involvement, and because my girls got into Girl Scouts, I fell into it. They asked me they needed, and so
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I fell in love with it. Just seeing the responses, I would get hugs on a weekly basis, and the parents would say, "You're doing such an amazing job. Thank you for so much." Um, and so that's one thing that I volunteer
Mm.
with. The other thing is now that I'm retired, I still love to give back to the veterans. And so I'll go and speak for them um, in Charlotte and Fayetteville mostly, just to be there for them. A lot of them still need our support. They need our mental uh, resiliency. Um, we need to build their faith up, that they can still contribute to society after they've retired. A lot of them have PTSD. And if you give them a hug, if you just say that you're there for them, if they need something, a lot of them get really depressed. Suicide rates are high. Um, they just need to know that we're there for them. So,
There's a number of groups though that as I've gotten older, learned to appreciate. One is being in having married into an Air Force family is just the appreciation for the military. But we just look at all the first responders and people that do jobs you don't want to do. So let's talk
that's
about the
right.
military and first responders. You go back to 9/11, local firemen, police, all this stuff. The people that will run in while the
Yeah.
rest of us are running out.
Hmm.
Most people wouldn't want to do that job.
That's right.
And teachers.
I know.
I don't wanna teach all these, it's like, but the and so
Yeah.
that so groups like that, so anytime anybody can get a pat on the back or a hug for the work that they've
That's
done
right.
is
Thanks for your service goes a
yes,
long way.
it probably
Mhm.
means a ton to them.
It does.
It probably does.
Yep.
So here we are on October 1st, 2018. It's already October,
Woo!
4th quarter, I know of
Mhm.
the year, so I'm gonna go back this afternoon and go, I'm reaching my goals. I don't want Karen to call me Mike.
That's right.
So where do you want to see so we finished
Mm.
the 4th quarter of this year, looking into, 2nd quarter of next year, 4th quarter of 2019, where do you wanna
Mhm.
see lifelong development be?
So with lifelong development, where I want to be is I want to make sure that I have the coaching clients necessary. My husband wants to come on to the team, and so I've got to make sure that I build up my structure, my everything in order for him to do that. And I definitely think that he would be a huge asset. He brings, black belt process improvement, Lean Six
Mm,
Sigma to the team, and so I think he would be a pivotal part. But I have to do my part too. So building up my clientele enough so that he can do that is the key.
and looking back on this journey with lifelong development, have you had
Mhm.
that aha moment yet where you're like, "I think it's gonna work, I can do this?"
Uh, well, when I started lifelong development, I knew that I wanted to start something that I could be happy doing for the rest of my life. It In the beginning, I was thinking it needs to be something that if it's not truly, I'm not a millionaire, I can still be happy with doing it. And so, what I do now is I do something that I don't even feel like is work. I love what I do. I love talking to people and helping them feel good about themselves and the choices that they're making to move forward with their life and their business. And I don't feel like I've had a moment where I wasn't going to be like, okay, I'm done with this or anything. So I'm in it to win it, and I'm in it for the long run, it's a lifelong
And it'll be
program.
neat things for your girls to grow up watching as well.
Yes,
Strong,
that's
successful,
right.
doing what you love, doing kinda almost whatever you wanna do,
That's
right?
right.
That's
And actually, my oldest daughter is gonna start, learning the leadership realm, uh, in facilitation, the end of this year. She's gonna start that.
very nice.
John Maxwell offers a youth leadership course, and so she's gonna start going through that, and then my youngest daughter will follow suit. And so you'll see some young leaders in the Atiles family coming up shortly, so
Very
that'll be
nice, and if you want some more information or get in touch with Karen, you can reach her at
mhm.
Lifelong Development. If you want more information on BNI, please go to trianglebni.com. Please go visit a BNI chapter, see how it works. We know it will help you or a friend of yours grow their business. And we look forward to seeing you next week with another wonderful story from Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.